Welcome to EnduringTechnologyPress.com. I'm Eric, and this past spring I decided that I wanted a quick, easy to set up, no-weld brewing system that I could set out on a Friday and have brewing on a Sunday. And that's when I found these two great pots. One is a 20-quart pot, the lower, and this one is a 16-quart. And they have the awesome ability of sharing the same lid, which means they actually stack. This makes the perfect all stainless steel alternative to a brew in the bag system. Countertop system, all electric, which gives it the advantage of being able to be thermostatically controlled, all automated. And now for the big question, this was cheap. These pots were on sale. I think the big one was like $12 or $15, and the 16 quart was about 2/3 of that price. 1500 watt electric element, a few plumbing fittings, an STC 1000 controller, temperature controller, a few outlets, a relay, some stuff off eBay. Immersion cooler. Most expensive stuff was the chugger pump, which is awesome, but I think you can probably get away with it, and some stainless steel fittings for the pot. Actual elapsed time, all told, probably an evening. The pot here that you put your grains in, slitted with and the dog's off barking, slitted with a Dremel tool, holes here, drilled out, and then we used a nibbler. You could use a Dremel to expand them to the right size. Everything's silicone with food grade silicone in place. That's the biggest change over using the gaskets. Didn't find the gaskets work very well. How does it work? It works fantastically. So I'll show you how it works. You can go to the website, EnduringTechnologyPress.com. The link is in the show notes below, and that's got all the details of the build. It'll show you in detail. I think all told, excluding the pump, there's probably about $60 in this. Pump is your most expensive part, but it works great. 2.5 gallons in a single batch, 2 batches, 5 gallons. Because it's automated, this is so easy to do. It's set it, forget it, come back when your alarm goes off and says you're ready to go to the next temperature step, next stage of the process. So this is a great way to brew. There's systems that are similar to this or identical to this that they sell. This is a really cheap alternative and something that is well within the range of anyone with a Dremel and a drill to put out. So look at the show notes for the website, and I'll show you how the actual brew goes. Breakwater here, and I'll give you a tour around how this was put together. You can see there's the 1500 watt heating element in there, and we've got the appropriate nuts in there, again sealed with that food grade silicone. Those gaskets just didn't seem to work. This hole had to be taken out with a nibbler to bring it out to the right size. Opened up initially with a step bit, but then used a nibbler. Here you can see the green is from our ground. We're grounding onto the frame. And then these are just some conduit parts that we put together. Go to the website and I'll give you a better image of how that all fits together. We've got one of those locking ends that snugs things up really nicely. So this power cord controls the element, provides power to the element. And if you're just running full out, well, you plug this in directly. But where you want to control the temperature, we've got one of those STC 1000 controllers that are only about, they're about $10 off eBay or Alibaba or stuff like that. And this is in bolt. You can see the bolt down there, locked in place. And it was drilled out to accommodate the probe. A little bit of aluminum foil had to be used around to seal it, and some thermal paste. There's a good image of it. And this works great. Now, it does read a couple degrees low, but whatever. Now, some of these put out 12 volts. I just had one that put out 110. So what I have here is it's wired into an outlet. There's the outlet. That provides power to this controller. This controller then feeds into this outlet, just a standard outlet. I've got an old wall wart that I salvaged from some project or some piece of junk. Within this box, and you can see images from the inside of it, I've got a relay that'll do up to 60 amps. And this box is all grounded. It's a nice project box. It goes into a GFI plug. So this controls that relay. In hindsight, if I'd picked up one that did 12 volts out of here, I could have fed that directly into the relay. This still won't handle enough amperage to do it on its own. Into the relay and then into the GFI, and it would all have been done in one. But because I wanted to get this done pretty quickly, I used what I had. And it's been working all right, so I'm pretty pleased with it. So while you've got this on and you want to control the temperature, you leave this plugged in. When you want full power, like during your boil, just pull it out, plug it in directly, and you feed full current. The other hole in here is our gate valve, our ball valve. And here you can see there's that, there is some gasket in there, but there's also some of that tube of silicone that really, I love that. It was cheap, made all the difference in the world compared to buggering around gaskets. And it's one of those weldless fittings that you can see on this end with the little nut jammed up against the inside of the pot. One thing when you're assembling it, and then it's got the fitting out to this hose, to the braided hose onto the pump. One thing that I screwed up when I fitted it, you should fit all of these fittings in before you put the silicone on this one and screw it in. That should be your very last. Everything should be beautiful, nice and tight, Teflon and all the rest. Otherwise, the first time around I did it, put this one in first, figured I'd do this one after, and you know, it just doesn't torque up right. You destroy your gasket and end up having to redo it. But assemble it all first and then use that nut last and seat it up with the silicone. Works perfectly. So that goes into the braided tube, into our pump, and you could get away without using the pump, I think. It just makes it nice for recirculating. Occasionally you're going to have to hold this up a little bit when you start to flow until it's filled, and then it becomes rigid. You need a gate valve here to throttle off your flow, and then it flows through here, and we cut a hole in the lid of the pot, and we just drilled a few holes in a stainless steel pipe cap and have it into a fitting, and that's how we distribute the wort as we recirculate. So I'll show you how that pot. The beauty of this is, of course, that this 20 quart pot allows this 16 quart pot to fit right inside. These slits were made in the bottom with Dremel tool, or a clone with just those little discs that they have. You can pick them up pretty cheap. I put in these stainless steel bolts. In hindsight, they weren't really needed. I'd originally intended to use some stainless steel rod to hold this pot up as it was draining over the larger one with the heating element. You know, pieces of 1x2 are more than adequate, and that's what I ended up sticking with. I ended up using the stainless steel for something else. So, very simple pot. This was very, very quick to do with the knockoff Dremel tool and those rotary bits. You might wonder how it works with high wheat pill. Yesterday I did up an American wheat that is 90% wheat malt, and it works perfectly. There's no stuck mashes or anything like that. Now, in terms of overall performance, irrespective of whether you're running wheat or anything else, you probably have to control the throttle here and watch it as you're recirculating, just to make sure that it has an opportunity to drain through and get back into your intake before it piles up here and then spills out. So there is no emergency overflow to get it back into the lower pot. So you just have to watch that and take care of that manually. But once it's set, and usually I throttle it a little bit more than I have to, it seems to work great. So I'm going to mill up the grain, toss that in, and we'll show you the other steps of getting this to work. Pump. We've got it over here. You can see the throttle is, we've throttled it down with the gate valve. And here we're recirculating it. Pretty good flow. Easy it is to set the temperature controller. You press set, we've always got it in heating mode. And we're going to bring it up to 74. Now, one of the things here, this whole setup, whether it's the thermocouple down here or it's the controller itself, it reads a couple degrees low for the temperature that it's actually going at, which is where a portable digital thermometer that you've calibrated with boiling water to make sure it goes at 100 is really handy for setting that. But once you know your offset, this is incredibly easy. It holds the temperature, and you can hear it, heating element clicking on and off as it requires. So really easy. Automation is awesome. For draining the mash, it's up here, a little bit of foam from recirculation, and then you can see it's on those 1x2s and is drip draining into our bigger pot, ready to start the boil. So we'll take the electrical cord from the element, remove it from our controller, and just plug it directly in and go through the boil process. With the boil, and as you can see, it's not massive your action, but it's pretty good. So we'll go through the regular addition of hops, and then once the boil's over, we'll toss in the immersion chiller. So it's time to do our cool. So we've got the simple immersion cooler that we've done up. Again, this was intended to be a quick, easy build, and wrapping some copper tube around a keg certainly gets it done. We've got the hose into the carboy, and we've just cracked the valve here. You can see how nice and clear it is. And we'll drain it in, not super fast so we don't disturb the junk in the bottom. The proteins is coagulated out. There's hop stuff in there. Towards the end of the drain, I'll need to tilt it a little bit. And at that point you can sort of see very clearly what your sediment is like and where the clear liquid is. I haven't had a problem with things settling out. Usually leave the immersion chiller in there to just provide like another semi-little baffle. But that's all there is to it. And then clean things up, and we're good to put it away, or do a second batch if you're doing 5 gallons versus 2.5.